Hello, this is Ryan from Sea to Summit, and I'm happy again to be involved with the Gear Tips Congress. And in this video, one of the subjects I want to talk about essentially is what makes a good camp kitchen, what makes a good cook system.
O Travelogers é uma rede social para viajantes onde você pode registrar detalhadamente suas aventuras e compartilhar nas redes sociais, escolher o tipo de hospedagem para o seu destino e muito mais. E o melhor de tudo, o Travelogers é gratuito e sem anúncios. Travelogers. Viaje, compartilhe, colabore.
There's a lot of different things out there. So when you're in the backcountry, one of the most important things to me, at least, is to eat. And I look forward to it all day long when I wake up, when I get to camp. But there's a few key elements that's going to separate a good camp kitchen from a good cook system from what you would use at home. Primarily, it's got to be a lot more lightweight, and it's got to be compact, because when you're traveling, with a backpack on, or on a bicycle with panniers, or in a kayak, or whatever it is, you're always going to be limited by space. And so one of the most difficult things to pack in your system is your cook pots. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to give you 3 different options and to basically lighten up your cook system, make it more efficient, make it easier to use, potentially increase the durability of it, and also make it much more ergonomic. So here at Sea to Summit, we're basically a design company here in Western Australia. We've been around for 30 years. And what we basically do is make outdoor adventure equipment. And our designers go out and they use the gear. When they come back, we're always trying to refine and essentially design out the things we didn't like about what we brought. So we're always trying to make things better and bring actually innovation. So how do you bring innovation to pots and cook setups? Like I said, the most difficult thing to pack in your backpack. So first off, we wanted our cook sets to be lightweight. That's very important because you got to carry it. It has to be able to save you space. So space saving is very key. It has to be durable enough to be able to work as a piece of gear. It's got to work. It's got to be functional. It's got to do the job that you want it to do, and it's got to do that safely. So those are the key elements. So probably there's no better way for me to talk about all of these elements is just to start with this. This is the X pot, and we launched this probably about 5 years ago. And to us, this was something we've been working on for a dozen years. We wanted to make something that was not out there. We wanted to really kind of address the main issue with camp pots out there, is that packability. So I'm going to show you some really innovative things that this does. But actually, we'll just start with that because it's really kind of fun. So you can take your camp pot and you can collapse it down. So that is a big element of space savings. Would you rather pack this, or like with a hard-sided pot, would you rather pack that? It's pretty much a no-brainer. Okay, so let's talk about what goes into a pot. And we'll use this one as an example. So first off, anytime you start looking at pots, you got to start looking at what is the material that you're cooking on. So the base of this is actually going to be made out of aluminium. Now, when you have a pot, you're left with a couple different options for materials. So you can use steel, which is probably what you have at home. And steel is really good. Steel is very durable. Steel has high thermal conductivity, meaning that it transfers heat quite well. So it also will disperse heat really well. So if you're cooking with a very small stove, like so, with a very tiny, like a camp stove, not with a big burner, but a small burner, and you're spreading it out over a wide area, both steel and aluminium will do that really well. So steel is going to be that first one I talked about. Great durability, really good cooking material. The next one would be titanium. And titanium's at the opposite end of the spectrum from, say, steel. Titanium is very lightweight, and it's very strong for its weight. That's two major advantages of titanium. The disadvantages of titanium is that it's not very thermally conductive. So it doesn't spread heat well. That's why you're going to find most titanium pots are not going to be these big, wide ones. They're going to be small and narrow and vertical for boiling water. That's because titanium does not spread heat very well. Granted, titanium can get very thin and very strong, so there's definitely a place in the market for a titanium pot material. So in between those two, in between titanium and steel, you're left with aluminium. And aluminium has the weight characteristics of a titanium, so they're extremely lightweight. In fact, aluminium's lighter than titanium. The difference being, though, that titanium is really strong, so you can make it really thin, whereas aluminium is not as strong as a titanium, so you have to make it a little thicker. So it ends up being comparable weights to titanium, maybe a little heavier. What it does better than titanium, more like steel, is it transfers heat really well. It heats up quick and it cools down fast, and it spreads heat really well. So we chose aluminium for the X pots, primarily because you're going to have to carry it. And we wanted to really make it as light as possible that we can. So, but we have to do something to an aluminium. And so what we've done is, this is actually a hard anodized aluminium. We'll get into this a touch more, but hard anodization is a process that seals in the aluminium. It actually is it's a bit like a coating, but it's much more durable than that. And hard anodization gives you a few things. One, more scratch resistance. It also helps with strength of the aluminium. It also helps with dispersion of heat, because it's actually increasing the surface area a little bit of that pot base. So it's going to make it more efficient. And efficiency really means if something boils faster, you get to use less fuel with your stove. So you can extend your trip with one fuel can better. So efficiency is a good thing. The other thing that basically that hard anodization does is it gives it some texture. You hear that scratchy noise. So essentially, the texture is good when you're cooking on a pot like this and you've got, a couple liters of water on it. It doesn't just slide off and fall off and spill. So it's a safety element as well. So there's a lot of reasons why hard anodization is a good treatment to aluminium. Definitely increases its functionality as a cook pot. Now, I already showed you that this thing collapses, so it kind of stole my thunder a little bit. But so if you look at this thing, so the side walls are what makes this thing able to collapse. So this is going to be a silicon sidewall. And not all silicons are created equal. So this is actually they're all food grade that we use, of course, but this is a very high temperature heat resistant silicon. So you can go to a homeware shop and buy a pot grip, for pulling pots and pans out of the oven that's made out of silicon. So they do really well at basically preventing heat from getting through it. So they're good insulators. The other advantage of this is that you can segment the walls so that it can fold shut, which is really clever. Now, when you do this, there's a couple things that we also want to do to make a pot. How do you make a pot more functional, essentially? So one of the things that we did was in how you hold it. Essentially, we've integrated the handles, so there's no pot grip, that you need to be able to clip on and control. We really don't like pot grips here at Sea to Summit, and one of the main reasons why is it's an extra piece that it only does one thing. It grips the pot and then allows you to control it. It doesn't even do that well because you're holding a lot of weight on a very limited surface area. So we wanted to have something that was a little bit more ergonomic, safer, and easier to use. And it also something that does double duty. So essentially what we did was these handles here, we integrated them right into the pot. So they're all part of it. So it's really easy to pick this pot up and move it around and and handle it. If you look really closely from a safety perspective, we've lowered the handle down from the lip so that when I put my thumb here, if any steam escapes out of the pot here, you'll notice it doesn't come to my thumb. It's going to be redirected away from my hands. So that's another safety element in that regard. Now, because silicon is flexible, on the lip here, we added essentially a stainless steel ring, and that just gives it stability. So it's not just like holding a wet jellyfish or something like that, and a hot wet jellyfish at that. So having that integrated stainless ring is really important as well. That should be an element in these pots at least. So integrated handles, hard anodized aluminum base. That's always a real thing. You'll notice that on any kind of a pots that we do, you can't see it on this video, but we're always going to have a temperature, or excuse me, a measurement gradient on the inside. So if the recipe calls for 300 mils of water, you can pour 300 mils of water in here, and you can just stop when you see you get to that 300 mil line. So it's making it easier to use in that regard. The other thing about easy to use is the lid. So first off, we have a little lifter right here, a little silicon tab. It makes it easy to lift. It's also clear. So that's really nice because you can see when the water's boiling. So you're not always lifting the lid like this. Is it boiling yet? Is it boiling yet? Because I'm really hungry. And then, increasing the boil times and using more fuel. So you can see what's going on the inside, which is really good. We've also integrated right here. This is a strainer. You can see that in the light. Okay. So that means that if I have boiling water in here and I've boiled my rice or my pasta, I can then grab the lips, and you'll see that the lid has these two little tabs right here and here. You see that tab there and right here where my fingers are? So I can put my thumb on that and my thumb on that lid. This keeps the lid in place, but they're also raised off the lid so that they don't transmit, they're not as hot as just touching the lid itself. So they're kind of removed. So I can grab that hot boiling water and I can just pour the water out as I need to and control the flow really, really simply. So that allows me to drain out the pasta water or the rice water quite simply, put it down, and now I've got my setup, everything in there. So that all makes for it to be a lot of features that you need, fast to boil, easy to control. Now, when you go to collapse it, that's one of the best elements of it right there. But now these little wings, the handles, and those little tabs come into play as well. So what I can do is just fold the handle up over the lid, and it captures on these little tabs. So now my lid stays put. So when I put it in my pack, it doesn't rattle around, it doesn't get lost. It's nice and compact and ready to go for travel inside your backpack. Now, that's all well and good. So you've got your pot. Now, you need other things. You need bowls and mugs and things like that to go inside. So what we have is mugs, bowls that all meant to work in a system. So this is where this idea of nesting, things fitting together like a little Russian nesting doll. So you've got bowls that have measurement gradients on them, hard bases you can use as a cutting board if you want. As well, they're actually really good to hold in your hand because if it's really hot, it gives it some stability. You can collapse them down nice and flat. Same thing. Mugs. This is the X cup. It's actually X mug, excuse me. These have measurement gradients on the inside as well. They also have a stiffened ring at the top, so they're very easy to drink from. So that way, if you pour hot liquid in them, you have a nice sturdy place to drink from. And these also collapse down, which is fantastic in my opinion, because this is all about saving space. So now what I do is I've got my collapsible bowls and I got my collapsible cups. Now I've got my collapsible cook pot, so you know what's going to happen now, right? So I take the bowl, and inside as I place the mug, put that inside here. Then essentially do the same thing with the other two. Put those in. Now, all of these things will fit inside the pot. So in this space right here, once I lock the lid, I've got a cook pot, I've got 2 bowls and 2 mugs. That makes that really, really convenient to pack. So that's this has been a really great addition to the outdoor industry, and people can use that quite well. One of my favorite versions of this is the kettle. I love this little thing. This is what I primarily use if I'm just going by myself out for an overnight. It's 1.3 liters. It's actually got, the cool thing about, kettles are meant for boiling water, but what we tried to do is make it with a big enough opening that you can still cook inside if you want. Same hard anodized aluminum base. We've got twin handles up here for stability when pouring. And then, for me, I can then put in two of my, if I want, I can put a mug inside. I can put my cleaning stuff, my little rag. I can do 2 mugs inside of this. And then it has a little silicone strap to hold that lid on in place. And that's a 1.3 liter cooking system, nice and tiny. So with the X series, X pots, X bowls, X mugs, X kettle, the idea behind this really is how do you address the big issue with pots, which was they're hard to pack. Pioneering the use of segmented silicon sidewalls, and then adding in the safety features, the durability, as well as the ergonomics to be able to pour the lid, how you attach you'll be able to attach the lid and capture that with the wings, and no pot grip. It's a really good setup, and one I've been using for years and years. So we've been making those for a few years now. And so we decided to address another issue, which was hard-sided pots. Now, a lot of people still, they really want a hard-sided pot. So when we set out to make a hard-sided Sea to Summit pot, we wanted to address those same issues. How do we make pots to be nesting? How do we make them more ergonomic? How do we make them safer? How do we make them durable? How do we make them efficient? So I'm going to run through some of the features of this. So we have 2 different versions. We've got what we call the alpha pots, and we also have sigma pots, okay? Now, the features are basically almost identical between the 2, but the materials are different, okay? So this pot right here, the alpha pot, this is a hard anodized 5 series aluminum. So this is really going to be as lightweight as we can make something. And 5 series, within aluminiums, they're also not all created equal. And I don't think anybody else has been able to make a 5 series aluminum pot at this thin, that's actually this deep. It's really hard to construct. So it's a very technical setup. On the other side here, we have the Sigma pot version. And the Sigma pot basically is going to be made out of a marine grade stainless steel. And the stainless steel, as we learned, is going to give you that durability. And they're actually crazy lightweight too. So you kind of, which one's lighter? Yes, the aluminum's lighter. This is going to be a little bit more durable. And the feature sets are the same. So let's run through those, because some really clever things that you can do to a pot to make it easier to use. So it's not just a cooking setup. All right, let's start with, I'll just use the Sigma because it's shiny. So marine grade stainless steel. Stainless steel is going to heat up really well. It's actually going to hold its heat really well, and it's also going to disperse heat from a cook pot or a camping stove, really, really well. Camping stoves are really good at heating up. They're very small, they're very compact, but they put a lot of heat in one spot. So that's why we chose not to use titanium. We wanted to use aluminum or steel, so it spreads that heat out really well, and you don't get scorching on the inside. So with both bases, one of the things that we addressed also was texture. So on the hard anodized aluminum pot, so we have a roughed out texture here, so it stays on top of the cook kit or on the stove really well. And on the Sigma, we use an electrostatic coated base, and this actually gives it a lot of, you hear that? A lot of grip right in here. So that stays on as well. This also helps spread out the heat. That's why one of the reasons why it's black, and it increases surface area. So that was really important as well. But the most clever thing that I really love about this, remember how we said we don't like pot grips? So all of our pots are going to have an integrated handle on them, okay? And that integrated handle means you never lose it. It's not something that can fall off. I've dropped pots with pot grips, removable ones, many, many times. So we wanted something that was on there permanently. But we wanted to do it in a really clever way. So, and a safe way, because a movable handle on a boiling pot, you know, could be dangerous. So I spent a lot of time developing this. Is called pivot lock. And so here's the idea. A lock, if I unlock it, you hear that snap. This allows me to pivot the handle into this position here. So I can make it much more packable. And I'll show you how that works as well when we put the lid on. But essentially then you rotate it out, snaps into place, and then you close the lock. And now you've got a pot that is safe to use and a grip and an ergonomic handle. That's right there. And the handle itself is going to be coated with silicone, much like the X series pot you saw over there. And that is so you don't burn your hand. It's also, if you're wearing a glove, it gives you grip. It's just a safety feature and an ergonomic one at that. Speaking of ergonomics, if you look on the inside of the Sigma pot, you'll notice that it's high polish, and that is essentially to facilitate help with cleaning up. It's easier to clean up a polished pan than it is a matte surface pot surface like that. There's always going to be a measurement gradient as well on the inside. That's another key point. And then the lids. So one of the things that has always annoyed me about lids is that when I have a boiling water and I'm stirring, so now I've got to do multiple things. I only have two hands. So what do I do with the pot lid? Usually I end up taking it off, flipping it upside down, and it's hot. So I kind of set it down like that, and I hope dirt and stuff, because I'm camping, dirt doesn't get in it, and then I end up having to put the dirt back in. It's happened. I don't like it. So this is a really clever little setup. On the inside, we call this lid keep, and it's basically a silicone inlay that when I go to pop off the lid, I can then just snap it on the side of the pot like that. Much more hygienic, much easier to use. I can pop it off, put it back on, no problems. We have a little lid lift right here, and this lid lift also does the idea of when I shut the handle here, that locks in place the lid. So it works with the handle to lock that in place. So again, that makes you, so you don't have to put a strap over it or anything like that. It's all kind of integrated. Close that lid. The other thing we've got going on here is, if I can show you, we've got a strainer down here, and the holes of the strainer are sized so that rice doesn't come through. A lot of little things. So you can actually then sit here and you can pour out really easy. If you need to pour just a little bit, the other side here has a small little hole. So if you need to do a micro pour and just add a little bit of water to something, or you're pouring into a small cup, you can pour from that side. So it makes it easier to use in that way too. Those are all elements that you can put into a pot when you're really thinking about it. The next thing is, but it doesn't collapse. So what do? You got to have nesting bowls and mugs. So what we've done is we've designed a range of really lightweight and durable, but also ergonomic, basically glass reinforced polypropylene bowls. They nest one inside each other. Now those can sit right there. And now we've got mugs. So these are insulated mugs. They have a nice little insulated sleeve on the outside. They have a silicone sip cap, so it keeps the heat in as well. They also, so it's easy to drink from, you take the silicone lids off, you can pop the insulating sleeve off. They're actually going to be fluted. So, and this ribs right here give it strength. So for strength that way. They also trap dead airspace, so it actually helps with the insulation as well. So you've got your mugs, your lids, pop one inside the other, they nest. And the funny thing is that most mugs that have to go inside a round pot have to be a really funny shape. So we wanted to make these so there was almost no difference than drinking out of a normal mug. Very, very ergonomic. So you put those in here, like so. Take your little sleeves, drop them inside. These are now designed to fit right inside the bowls. Put these on the same side. This now will drop right inside. lock, and now you have a cook set with 2 bowls, 2 mugs, and leftover space to be able to put whatever else you want in there, a towel, a sponge, some soap, whatever else you really want to put in there. We do the exact same thing in the Alpha as well. And these will come in as you see behind me, there's a whole range of sizes of these things, from really big down to really small. And this is the idea of how do you integrate by design. And so we're trying to address all the issues that you have with camp pots and provide a solution. So whether that is collapsing everything down nice and small this way, and so in using collapsible cookware, collapsible mugs and bowls, or do you want to use a hard-sided pot and have everything ergonomically designed to fit in there really well? At the end of the day, it's up to you. But there's a lot of solutions out there for you that can make your camp kitchen experience more fun, safer, easier to use, faster to boil. And I guess if you can, tell some of your friends about your cool new gear. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you're enjoying the Congress and learning lots about gear. Thanks again. This is Ryan from Sea to Summit.
O Travelogers é uma rede social para viajantes onde você pode registrar detalhadamente suas aventuras e compartilhar nas redes sociais, escolher o tipo de hospedagem para o seu destino e muito mais. E o melhor de tudo, o Travelogers é gratuito sem anúncios. Travelogers. Viaje, compartilhe, colabore.